about to go cut the grass while the studio cool off. It should only take me about 30 minutes or whatever to cut this grass. Hey, I heard y'all got a heat wave down that bitch, huh? I'll be back, guys.
What's up, everyone? It's Kayla on behalf of Grammarly to tell you all about the free version of the best communication assistant in the world. If you want to understand why Grammarly's free offering is so beloved, let's look under the hood and see how it works. Millions have chosen to go beyond their default grammar checkers and use Grammarly. My cousin Izzy, a graphic designer, is one of them. Let's look as she's about to send a follow-up email to a client. Izzy loves how quick and reliable Grammarly is at providing feedback. She sees suggestions like this misspelling and this correctness underlined, which helps her avoid using effect with an E and instead suggests affect with an A. Another reason Izzy signed up for Grammarly is its conciseness suggestions, something she wasn't getting from default grammar checkers. Grammarly notices wordiness and helps her rephrase this hard-to-read sentence with one click. Izzy also wants to feel like her tone is on point, so she uses Grammarly's tone detector to show how a reader may understand her writing. Here, Izzy's email is optimistic, friendly, and admiring. Izzy sends the email confident that it's mistake-free, concise, and on target. And what did it cost her? Not a penny. The advanced grammar correction, conciseness, and tone advice, all of it was free. That's Grammarly's free offering. Pretty cool, right? Learn more at Grammarly.com and stay tuned for more videos about this must-have tool.
Who's pumped for tax season? Let's get out there and crush those taxes.
We know some freelancers who are pumped for tax season. This year, hire a tax expert on Fiverr.
Dang. Dame la ciencia.
personally gifted each and every one of you with 1 year free of electric vehicle rental.
Wait, did I pay for that or did you guys pay for that?
You did, Tom. You get a rental. You get a rental. I get a rental.
Welcome to Stormy Heights, where the windows are always Pella. Pella's fiberglass is the strongest material for windows and patio doors. The fiberglass frame is even scratch and dent resistant. Pella Windows, tested for extremes, designed for your home.
banner printed, and I saw the sign.
Did you?
Yeah, I saw the sign to print big.
good now. I swear to God, yeah, I was gonna wait till in the morning to do that shit. And I was like, you know what? You know what? Let me do that shit now, so when I get up in the morning, I can come straight up here. I'm gonna try to put a good couple of hours in tomorrow on this piece for the weekend. Saturday and Sunday, I'm really gonna try to go hard. Probably do like maybe 5 hours stretches in here and see how far we can get with this piece this weekend. I really want to knock this bench out. If I can get this bench done and start detailing his clothes on Sunday, I'll be happy as hell. And if not, oh well, we'll just keep working through it next week. Damn, it's like I can't stop sweating though. Whew. I do feel way better in here though. God damn. Yo, bro, that's what, yo. My first thought was like, you know, I'll do it tomorrow. Then I started thinking like, but what if it rained? I ain't fucking around. I ain't even taking the risk. Let me just do that shit now. It's nice out. It's not too hot outside. You know what I'm saying? I'm not super tired from work today, so bang that shit out real quick. The yard ain't that big, and it only took 26 minutes. Well, not even 26 minutes, because I had to get the stream started. I had to go out there and cut the yard, and then come back in. It take about 15 minutes to cut my grass. It ain't a lot of work. Now I didn't pull out the weed whacker either, or the fucking snippers, because I could have snipped some of that shit down around the fence and weed whack some. But I ain't you know, it looks neat. It doesn't look perfect, but it's neat. It don't look all shaggy like it was. So I'm happy with that. I'll let it slide. So next time I'll do the full works and pull out the weed whacker and the trimmers and everything and try to knock some more of that shit down. But today, I think that was good enough for today, in my opinion. You know, I feel good about that. Now I can relax a little shump. Relax your little shump. Ooh, some bubs already in there. Pre-ground, that's what I'm talking about. Ready, waiting. Oh man. It's Friday, everybody. It's Friday. Friday. I'm still pissed about that that last time. That shit was so weird. It was a nice day, just like this. The whole day was nice. It was a nice day. So I figured, hey, okay, it's nice. Let me go cut the grass. As soon as I go outside, it started fucking raining. Like, what the fuck? Where the rain come from? It was just nice as shit. Okay, it's starting to drizzle a little bit. Maybe it'll stop and I can just breeze through this. Man, the rain wouldn't stop. Then it got a little heavier. I'm like, alright, I ain't gonna be able to do it. Let me pull the lawnmower back. I came in the house and took a shower. As soon as I get out the shower and look outside, the fucking sun back out. So on a nice ass day, it rained for 15, 20 minutes. Right when I want to cut grass. How is that even possible? God, you're not funny. You're not funny. You're not a comedian. Cut that shit out. Don't fuck with me like that. For no reason. I actually got some no name. I got some no name. It's good though. What's your strain of the day? That'd be the best sometimes, bro. You know what I'm saying? With no name, you don't get disappointed, and you don't get overhyped. It's just weed. Does it do the job? It does the job. That lemon skunk. Ooh. Close my door. I'm letting some of the cold air out. Where you fuck you was raised in a barn? I'm scared to even turn the lights on in here, man. I turn the lights on, man. That shit be making so much more heat. My neck's still wet. Fucking sweaty ass neck. Ugh. All right. Here's my card. It's the last stamp, bitch. Go ahead. Oh yeah. Next time I come, freebie. There was a restaurant, like a soul food restaurant that did that with 8. You had to do 8 visits, and on your 9th visit, get a free meal. Get that OZ get that little cutie for a penny? What? I get the whole onion for a penny? Come on. You so nice to me. Not the whole zip. I get the whole zip for 1 cent. Let me get that. Man, got an elbow for 1. I don't know, guys. I'm in the studio, but am I going to paint is the question. That little bit of work right there. I'll probably pick up the brushes in a minute, but I do need to like woosah real quick. Let me look at my work. Yeah. Yeah, don't look too bad. Don't look too bad. Y'all looking pretty good. You know what I'm saying? If I had friends in real life, I'd go throw a cookout. If I had friends, I'd throw a cookout. Let's check some emails. Probably all spam. Spam. That's not spam. I need to read that. Alright. So I get this email notification. It's called Cafe Artist Entry. And it's a site that lists every open art event in the country. What is this? Some Grey Goose. I got the big bottle. That bitch almost gone now. But I was like, fuck it. I ain't had vodka in a while, so a couple weeks ago I just got the fucking big boy Grey Goose. My girl calling. She always calls when I'm streaming for some reason. Hello? Hey. You know what? I'm not even gonna lie, that shit slipped my mind. And you know why? So I'm doing the show with Grayson, and he came and dropped some art off, and he was one of the persons I wanted to ask, but he came. I'm live streaming. I ain't gonna say that on camera, but he came and we talked about some shit, and then like what the conversation he started, I was like, oh shit, that shit kind of fucked me up a little bit, and I ain't even think like once he started talking about that, I ain't even think to ask him about a mechanic and that shit was crazy, and Sunday, it's just a one night thing. You remember Rob Lettieri, and you remember Ryan. So Ryan put a show together with it's him, Grayson, and Eric, and this other guy that the mural over by the gym. Eric, that one guy who was helping Eric, he's in there too. But Ryan called me the other day and said Grayson was having problems getting his art delivered, and he's like, well, you're on that side. You think you can help him out? And he was like, you know what, dude? I'm sorry I ain't even asked you to start with, but man, you know, do you want to like drop a couple pieces in the show? And I already told him like, I ain't trying to show shit until December. I'm trying to stay chill. I don't need my shit out right now because I don't got a lot of new shit. And he was like, oh, it's just a one night thing. It's at Rob Lettieri's. I'm like, all right, for one night, I'll do that. And so, especially at Rob, because Rob know everybody. So anything that Rob do at his house is always a good event to go to. I sold a piece from there, and that's where I met old dude who helped me get my patent for my brush holder. Like, Rob just know people, and I was trying to explain that to Grayson too, because he was really apprehensive about going. And I told him, like, when Rob Lettieri do something, just go, bro. Even if you don't sell anything, you'll meet people, because that motherfucker know everybody. And so it's just one night. It's Sunday from 6 to 10. So, and I just put the new piece with Grayson in there. So if he does come, it'll be kind of a double whammy, because the artist, Grayson's going to be there painting live, and then there's a painting of him. So it'll be like this whole crazy dynamic if he actually shows up. So. But I'll ask somebody. I'll definitely remember to do that shit this evening or tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna try to figure something out like that beforehand, before you come up? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Alright. I forgot to check on something. That green car in the backyard is actually her grandma's car. And her grandma passed away last year. And they ain't really had nowhere to put the car at, because they don't want to get rid of it, because it's an old ass car, but somebody can use that. I mean, it works, it drives. Both of my cars old as fuck too. So shit, as long as that bitch run and can get you from A to B, what you need to do. And so her brother in a situation where he may need a car, and so we're just trying to keep it for him. But that shit needs some work done to it. So we're just trying to figure out, like, cause the insurance gone, they ain't got no plates or nothing on it. But we got to get that shit, some work done on it, a little bit of work. So we're gonna try to do that shit tomorrow. Can't do vodka very often nowadays. Me neither, bro. That's why I say I ain't had vodka in a long time, bro. I don't really. I drink tequila. I drink tequila and rum. I'll drink anything. Cognac, brandy, but if I'm buying it for my own self, tequila is probably my go-to, and Captain Morgan. Like, I'm very simple, man. I keep that shit old school. And I drink some rum, some tequila. I as a young boy, man, look, man, I done burnt out a lot of shit. Coronas, I done drank so many Coronas, I don't even buy them shits. I done drank so much motherfucking Hennessy. I don't even buy that shit. That Grey Goose, man, I drank so much Goose back in the day, that's why I don't even buy that shit no more. Drinking in general, y'all see how I do, man. I have one of these after work, and I'll do that shit maybe like twice a week. I don't even do this every day. It's Friday, so I already know myself. I can't handle a lot of alcohol. My body not built for it. My tolerance is not there. And when I really started hanging out and seeing motherfuckers get drunk, like my cousin was like, that was my guy. I used to be he couple like 4 years older than me, so I just used to tag along to him so tight, man, and just try to be like him and do everything he did. But I remember the first time I really got like super drunk, I went but 16 years old, man. Motherfuckers thought they about to have to take me to the hospital for alcohol poisoning. I went too hard. And ever since then, like once I got to that point and felt that shit, I was like, I don't never want to feel like that ever again in my life, and I haven't. But then, like, when me and my cousin used to club and go out, man, I can't even count the times I done had to, like, literally drag this motherfucker in the house from the car, like, motherfucker just be passed out. I'd be like, why y'all drink so hard, bro, that y'all can't even, you don't even know what happening, man. You don't know what's going on at all. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that shit. I don't like that feeling. I don't like to drink to get drunk. I like to drink to get a buzz so I can feel, you know, the effects of it, but I don't want that shit to go so hard where I can't drive and pass a sobriety test, motherfucker. You can't even say the ABCs and walk in a straight line. You can't walk in a straight line? You drink too much, bro. That Royal, that's that cognac. Them Voodoo Rangers, like I say, man, my uncle drank that shit, yo. Them shits, they got a bite to it. That shit real hoppy. That Voodoo Ranger, Well, you know, man, we smokers, man. We smoke. And drinking, cool. I don't mind drinking. I have some drinks, even by myself. You know what I'm saying? I can drink socially. I think out the box. I drink to get drunk. That's how I hack the best. I be in there, nigga, double space bracket, XRQ bracket. See, that's the thing about you, Pete. You're a drinker. Like, you don't smoke like that. You know what I'm saying? You're not no smoker. Everybody got their thing. Everybody got their twist. I respect it. As long as you can maintain. I don't give a fuck what you do. I don't give a fuck what you do. As long as you can maintain. Maintain. I don't know. I know motherfuckers who coke was they thing. But they can maintain. I respect you, bro. I could fuck with you. I don't really fuck with druggies like that. But if that's your twist and you can maintain, go ahead, bro. Do you. It's a difference between a user and an addict. An addict can't maintain. Yo, I taught that class not too long ago, maybe like a couple months ago. I forgot. I called this nigga for something. Really just to fuck with his ass. I forgot what sparked me to call him though. Matter of fact, somehow another, man, I seen a Sab Young video I ain't never seen before. And that shit looked kinda new. And it had E-Class in that shit. I was like, wait a minute, how come I ain't never seen this video? And I called his ass and just fucking was like, yo, I just watched the Sab video, man. I ain't never seen that shit, bro. Whoa. Oh. Motherfucking blunt mover. I don't know what he's listening to.
Yo, Travis the Prince. Easy, good, I'm good. What's good, man? Check this shit out. Still in mud and blood. Thank God it's Friday. All probation. You know what I mean? So don't be upset. Remember this?
Hey yo, I heard you say when you better make a whole new song. If they say that shit is hot, then you know you wrong. Clown niggas, you ain't got a chance at all. Big L Codio to a fancy y'all. I make moves and balls all across the world. So don't be upset if I cross your girl. I got shit in the road, pockets down the low. Bitches sweat me wherever I go. I move in the GS.
Rest in peace to Big L. This the ninja that put Jay-Z on. C to the E of one. Another verse if you forgot about Lord Finesse.
Yo. That's
I said one time before the spit, it's time to let the A-Boots. It's time to turn the A-Boots.
What the fuck? That shit like 5 shots.
You're right though. Put you on this album. Ain't better alive. They're taking it around.
Verse on this track right here, yo.
And for me, Gucci Rap is a rap god.
Yeah, Gucci Rap. Like, that nigga don't get no fucking props, yo.
As far as I'm concerned, if it's gangster, Gucci Rap was the first to do it. Talk about the West Coast, down south, Midwest. I ain't hearing it.
Got a sample of AJ Fernandez. Who that?
He should have been at the Grammys for the 50th anniversary of shit.
Big hole for small, yeah.
As far as I was concerned, his words, his gangster, his G, wasn't to be tested, and that was the way. That was the code, that was the way. Be more like G.
Nah, Lines in 50? You know what? Bro, you know what? I think I did see that shit, bro.
You're never talking about his true. It's just him. And he's talking to everybody. People say Slick Rick. Fat Joe. Pun. Biggie. But respectfully, fuck every last person mentioned. You're the original storyteller. I give Slick Rick his proud. I'm glad he's telling stories. Your storyteller. You gotta take that from me. I heard G-Rap before I heard Slick Rick though.
Yo, they did a new song?
What's the track? Cock Blocking? That shit is classic. It's still hits today, bar for bar. Kill me, cock blocking.
Wait a minute.
That shit is still effective today. Fight. Hold on. Let me show you. Cock blocking. I don't know, something that's about in my head. Oh, Operation CB, yeah, Operation Cock Blocking. CB4 at its name. Needed reference. This hardest gangster rap album ever. Let's even in the interval, what did he say? And he was ahead of his time. That's right.
Every 11 minutes across the USA, a man is victim of cock-blocking. This action usually results in broken friendships. But however, this
50 ain't do shit on that track, bro. 50 ain't do nothing. 50 ain't do nothing just now on that track at all. He ain't even had Nas. Nas just let him get on. Like he ain't even need to be on that shit. Oh my God, what? Why you do him like that? When did he drop this shit? Yo, he just dropped the whole album. Oh my goodness. Yo, he just dropped the whole jump. Yeah, he's not the best of actors, but so he got an intro, Abracadabra, Office Hours featuring 50 Cent, Black Magic, Motion, Bokeem Woodbine, that's the actor guy, Irvin Magic Johnson, the basketball player. What this all really means. Slow it down. Pistols on your album cover. One mic, one gun, featuring 21 Savage. And he must have just dropped this shit like yesterday or the day before. Because when I couldn't find like the whole album to start with, and then I went to YouTube and the video was like posted 16 hours ago of that him and 50 track. So he had to drop that shit like in the past couple days. Show appreciate it, because as soon as I get off the stream, I'm about to run through this bitch, bro. Nas is still, to this day, one of my all-time favorite artists, bro. Him and Lupe. Like Nas and Lupe. And me and my man go back and forth over this Jay-Z shit, bro. My man is a fucking mega Jay-Z fan. You know what? I gotta fucking share. I'm about to fuck him up. I gotta share this fucking track with his ass now, bitch. Wait, man, come on, man. Jay-Z, man, look, man. Alright. Not too old because Like on that King Disease 2, he talk about like current shit, yo. So I just got that Nas, that's that Magic. So he's doing King Disease and Magic. So he's on King Disease number 3 and Magic number 2. Nas, the Lost Tapes. Nas, that's that first Magic album. King Disease 2. Where my King Disease 3? I know I had that on there. But it won't let me see my whole fucking list all at once, but do I pass that shit? Oh, there it is right there. King Disease 3. And I can't scroll all the way down, but I got King Disease 1, I Am, like, yo, all Nas shit, man. Like, Nas that dude, yo. That Lost Tapes, man, there's so many classic songs on this album, man. Yo. That Black Zombies is on that album. Like, track for track. Do-Rags, Drunk by Myself. Let's see. Do-Rags, My Way, You Gotta Love It, Nothing Lasts Forever, No Ideas Original, Blaze of 50, Everybody's Crazy, Purple, Drunk by Myself, Black Zombie, Papa Was a Player, Fetus. Fetus is kind of like the only one, because he really do. So motherfucking when RZA was still Prince Rakeem, he did this song about like how he was born and like sperm traveling through the fallopian and all that. And Nas, like when Fetus is the same thing. It's like him being born, like from conception to gestation inside the stomach to like birth and everything, yo. He said the doctor slapped him on his ass, and my pop said at least he ain't ugly. 30? I'm trying to think what track that is. But yeah, to this day, and that's why I keep trying to tell motherfuckers, Nas just dropped the album. Nas just dropped the album. I was listening to this nigga in high school. I was listening to Nas when I was fucking 15, 16 years old. I'm 42, and this nigga's still dropping albums. I'm 42. Nas just dropped an album. None of these rappers nowadays, they not gonna be able to do this. They not gonna be able to rap for 30 fucking years. They can't. They can't. They don't got it in them. Jay-Z can still drop an album today. Eminem can drop an album today. Andre 3000 about to drop another album. Like the rappers from my generation, they're gonna be like the rock and roll stars. The Rolling Stones and Kiss and all these motherfuckers. These bands played for 30, 40, 50 years and toured and made music. They didn't age out of entertainment. Most rappers age out. For most rappers, you get too old to rap. You don't stay relevant. But a lot of rappers from my generation, they're not aging out of rap. They're rock stars of this shit. They are the rock stars, and they can do this shit until they're fucking 60, 70 years old if they want to. KRS-One is definitely going to do it. KRS is 50 plus. And he can drop an album today. This nigga got like 23 albums, 24 albums or some shit. And he can still drop another one. That nigga 50 plus. There's like this group of rappers that they're not gonna age out of this shit, yo. And y'all can't touch these motherfucking skills, their creativity. They're poets. These motherfuckers have written thousands of poems. Thousands. These boys can't write like that, man. I don't know why that track is not clicking right now. Oh yeah, okay. That's what I'm saying, man. He too good, bro. That's true artistry. He is literally a master of his craft. And I don't know how old is Nas? How old is this dude, yo? Nas got to be like damn near 50. He got to be like 48. $49. Motherfucker was born in 1973. So Nas 49 years old and just dropped an album. And you think in a couple of years, when he's 50 and 51, that he not gonna drop another album? Come on, man. Say that nigga look like a camel. You say he look like a camel. I'll never forget that. Yo, ether. That shit that make your soul burn slow. Oh my god. Come on. Come on. Oh, Jay-Z the best. Jay-Z the best. No, did you listen? Did you hear Ether before? Come on, man. No, he's one of the best that ever do it, man. Damn. Goddamn, and then they wind up doing the track together. And you know what? I was listening to a Prodigy album I never listened to. Like Mobb Deep, still probably one of my favorite groups ever. But I know Prodigy haven't had like one or two like solo projects, but Prodigy made like a lot of like standalone music, yo. And one of his later albums, I never got around to listen to that shit, but when I was listening to it, yo, he got this one track where he got a lot of fucking voiceover from Tupac on that shit, like this Tupac interview. You know what I'm saying? I wonder if Tupac was still alive, would they have eventually squashed their beef and shit, just like Nas and Jay-Z did. I don't know if that Nas Jay-Z shit, that was just like, I think that shit was just publicity and motherfucking some numbers and sales and shit. I don't think that shit would have ever really turned into anything. But like Pac really made it seem like he was gonna kill these niggas, and Mobb Deep was on his list. But then years later, as Prodigy got older and matured, and you know, gained knowledge of self, got some wisdom, on one of his own tracks, he's playing a Tupac interview where Tupac is saying some really positive, like prolific shit. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to give a message, and he utilized that in his own music, even though when Pac was alive, they weren't on good terms. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Just hearing that, just hearing Prodigy use Tupac voice, that shit was dope as fuck, yo. He said Prodigy didn't choke on the egg. They say that's how they say he died. I thought his illness had got to him. Yo, but P was that dude for real, yo. HNIC, yo. I get that from his album, yo. No lie, yo. That's from me listening to Prodigy. And he did that album, HNIC, I was like, yo, I'm tatting that shit on me, yo. Yo, still got that shit, yo. That Prodigy, yo, I was like, yeah. Yo, P was my man. Like, oh, boy. He choked on the egg. Nah, nigga. Cause them last two albums he put out, I ain't even listened to the other one yet, and I only made it like halfway through the one. What the name of that shit is? Bruh. Yo, this shit is called Hegelian Dialectic. The Book of Revelation. Now I kind of know what it means because Alex Jones has used this phrase before, and Jordan Maxwell has used Hegelian dialectic. Hegelian dialectic describes the change of forms of thought through their own internal contradictions into higher forms that unite said opposites. However, the dialectic is usually presented in a therefore manner, as stated by the Hendrix Mortis. What? Wait a minute. Hegelian dialectic is basically problem reaction solution. Dr. Malachi. Yo, York is, I read a little bit of his shit. I don't know, man. So this album says intro, Mystic, Broken Rappers, Tyranny, Motherfucking America, Mike, As If, New Balance, Snakes, The Good Fight, Mr. President, Spiritual War, No Religion, Hunger Pains, PhD, Broken Apple, No Contrast, and Bless You. And I ain't even make it all the way through this album yet, because track 4 and 5, Tyranny and Motherfucking America, I had to listen to both of them like a couple of times a piece. Like Tyranny, I know I played that shit back like 3 times. I couldn't even get past that one. And then the next track came on, I couldn't get past that shit. I think I probably got like to the track number 6, but they 18 tracks on this motherfucker. Yeah, I want to listen to this episode of the Y-Files. Yo, my man finally did an episode on the moon landing, and I don't think I finished it. I don't understand what you're trying to say. Definitely doesn't work. Some vocals that are fit with this say that, cause I like that shit. I don't know what the fuck about it, but I don't know. It still, it don't seem like nothing gonna really fit on here as far as vocals. I'm trying to think what else I can add to it, though. Little show. We've been here for an hour and a half. What if we hate something? Oh, I can't wear no earbuds. Yo, Pete, you seen the latest episode of the White Files?
Debt.
Coal is a mirror. And the way it's a mirror is if light, a photon.
Episode of the Y-Files is brought to you by PDS Debt. Stanley Kubrick is considered one of the greatest filmmakers of all time.
So, what's your thoughts on it? Do you think we went to the moon or nah? Because I don't know, the whole time Beaver, it's fever, disco. No, trust me, I've been to Studio 54 enough, and Beaver makes a whole lot more sense. Yo, Heckle is fucking crazy. Alright. The sun done went down. Alright. It's actually got cool in here just now. Yo, Hecklefish, yo, that's one of the best sidekicks ever, yo.
13 movies, a few are considered classics. But in 1968, Kubrick released 2001: A Space Odyssey. And this is more than a classic, it's a masterpiece. And widely regarded as one of the best science fiction films of all time. And probably the most influential. This collaboration with science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke tells the story of an alien intelligence that visited Earth in the distant past and left behind artifacts in the solar system. The movie features groundbreaking special effects which still hold up today. In fact, the effects looked so good that the movie gave the American government an idea. Billions of tax dollars were invested in the space program, but the Soviets were still years ahead of the United States. NASA desperately needed to get to the moon before Russia, but they knew it was impossible. So they turned to one of the world's best filmmakers for help. Because when it came to the moon, if they couldn't make it, they'd fake it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
I told you to stop messing with that thing. It's full of mini demons.
Oh, come on, how bad could it be?
Don't do it. I told you. Hey, look, I don't have time to babysit right now. I sent you an important parcel.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Yahtzee.
I guess it's this.
Yeah, that's it. Inside the vanilla envelope is an important document I need you to sign.
Did you see vanilla?
Vanilla is Manila.
Hurry up. Gertie is freezing a hump off out here. Hang on, baby. Daddy.
Pay off your debt in a fraction of it. We only need this. landing was fake.
That's because it was faked.
Yeah, I know you believe that.
Like,
Yo, Hucklefish always says that shit.
He's a mean monkey.
Like the moon landing was fake.
You know this isn't healthy, right?
I know. Look, I gotta go. But shred that document, will you? It's got my real name on it.
Really? Your real name is...
Your real name is...
The moment that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin set foot on the moon on July 20th, 1969, rumors were circulating that the whole thing was faked.
That's because it was faked.
Yeah, I know you believe that.
I believe it because it's true.
Well, we're gonna explore the theory, but
It's
there
not
are...
a theory. The moon landing was fake.
Yeah, but can you be quiet for 1 minute while I set this up, please?
Fine. Go ahead. Set up your theory.
Thank you.
It was fake.
Science journalist Richard C. Hoagland wrote in his 2007 book Dark Mission that he saw NASA press officers helping distribute flyers to the press saying the landing was faked. Even though the astronauts brought back hundreds of moon rocks and took thousands of photographs of the moon, some people simply didn't believe it. Considering the technology of the time, going to the moon and back sounded like science fiction. At one point, almost 30% of the American public believed the moon landings had been faked, and this started to show up in pop culture. In the 1971 movie Diamonds Are Forever, there's a sequence where Sean Connery as James Bond breaks into... He steals a weird-looking moon buggy to escape.
That thing is almost as ugly as the Tesla Cybertruck.
A few years later, the movie Capricorn 1, starring James Brolin and O.J. Simpson, was released.
Oh, did O.J. find the real killers yet?
Not yet.
I'm sure they're hiding on a golf course out there somewhere.
Capricorn 1 told the story of a fake mission to Mars.
As millions all over the world watched and listened, the President of the United States spoke to the astronauts across the vastness of space. There's only one small catch. It never happened. It's all a lie.
So because of these and other high-profile references, the idea of the fake moon landing conspiracy really took off in the 19th.
Yeah, that's what I kind of think we went and we faked that shit. I think we went there and saw some shit, man. And they were like, what the fuck is this? And it's like, yeah, motherfucker, take your ass back to your planet, bitch. What you doing up here? And they got spooked. But they told everybody they were going to do it, and they said they were doing it, and so now we got to show y'all some other shit, because we can't show y'all what we really saw up there. So... I think we kind of went and we faked that shit, man. I'm not sure if we still there or not. They keep talking about sending shit up there. Man, y'all motherfuckers probably still up there. But then, I don't know, like, they got them little NASA videos saying, oh, we can't get through the radiation. And we're trying to work on the technology. And well, you did it in the 60s and 70s. Oh, well, we lost that technology. You what? You lost it? Well, we recorded over the tapes. Really? You recorded over the moon landing tapes? And you lost all the trajectory equations and all the math and all that shit? And you lost the technology, how to build shields and barriers decent enough to protect against the solar winds and radiation? You just lost, I just like, fuck it. You don't need it no more. Really, NASA? That's what you want to tell us.
No, the 70s had the best movies, the best music. You got a nice beaver, You know how to do it. Give me that nice beaver. You know how to show it.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that song's gonna be stuck in my head all day now. Oh, you don't remember that one by the Bee Gees? Nice Beaver?
Night fever.
No, night fever? That doesn't even make any sense. Well, what does he have, the flu? It's nice beaver.
It's not.
Well, if you spent as much time at Club 54 as I did, you know that nice beaver makes way more sense.
That may be, but the song is Night Fever.
Agree to disagree.
The conspiracy faded in the 80s, but the internet helped it make a comeback in the late 1990s. By the mid-2000s, the idea that the moon landings had been faked caught on with millennials who weren't alive for the Apollo missions. An extremely popular documentary was the Bart Sibrel film, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon.
Isn't that the guy that got punched out by Buzz Aldrin?
That's the guy.
You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black, if you ever thought of it. Say that
You
misrepresented
get
myself.
away from me.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Ooh, that old timer can really throw hands, huh?
He sure could. But to be fair, Sibrel had been chasing Buzz around with a camera, badgering him to swear on the Bible that the moon landing was real. Buzz begged the guy to back off, which he didn't. Finally, Sibrel called him a liar and a coward, and he got a knuckle sandwich for his trouble. So the moon landing conspiracy was back, and popping up all over American pop culture.
They just start making stuff up. Yeah. Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows? Neil Armstrong being the first man to walk on the moon. Talk about a fish story.
Man, and they're buying it.
And when Joe Rogan started questioning the moon landing, that exposed the theory to a huge new audience.
Joe who?
Joe Rogan. Comic, podcaster.
Between 1969 and 1972, they had seven attempts, 6 of them successful. That was the only time in history that a human being has been more than 400 miles above the Earth's surface.
Never heard of him.
400,000 people worked on the Apollo project. 600 million people watched the moon landing live. If this is a hoax, it's the greatest hoax in history. Bold claims require bold evidence. Is there evidence that the moon landing was faked? Lots of it.
Has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question.
The motivation for faking the moon landings was driven by several factors. The United States was under tremendous pressure to get to the moon before the Soviets. The Soviet Union had already proven they were far ahead of the U.S. in space technology.
The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not. And it is one of the great adventures of all time. And no nation which expects to be the leader of other nations can expect to stay behind.
The Soviet Union put the first man-made object in orbit with Sputnik 1 in 1957. They put the first animal in space when Laika the dog was launched with Sputnik 2. Laika didn't survive, but in 1960, the Soviets launched 2 dogs and a bunch of mice and rats that did return safely. The first human in space was Yuri Gagarin. Valentina Tereshkova was the first woman in space. The first multi-person crew, the first spacewalk, the first spacecraft to reach the moon, the first pictures of the far side of the moon, and even the first soft landing and transmission from the moon's surface. These were all Russian achievements. Meanwhile, America's attempts to catch up were not going well. Rumors started going around that the Russians were going to put nuclear weapons on the moon.
We have vowed that we shall not see space filled with weapons of mass destruction, but with instruments of knowledge.
So there was tremendous public pressure to get there first.
We choose to go to the moon.
Not
We
because it
choose
is
to
easy
go to the moon.
and do the other things. Not because they're easy, but
We
because
choose
they
to go to the
are.
moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
On July 16th, 1969, Apollo 11 launched successfully. Four days later, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin set foot on the moon.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step
In just a few years, the United States went from being years behind the Soviets in space exploration to eclipsing all of their achievements. To many people, this was just too good to be true. So skeptics started poring over photographs and film, looking for evidence of a hoax. And the evidence was everywhere. The first clue of a hoax was that the astronauts seemed to be casting shadows in two different directions. But the sun is the only light source on the moon. On Earth, shadows run parallel. On the moon, not only did shadows go in different directions, but sometimes they were at right angles to each other. The only way to explain this is multiple light sources, like you get on a movie soundstage. Studio lights would also explain this shot. In a vacuum with only a single light source, the shadows on the moon should be absolutely, completely black. But there's a lot of film and photos where, even though the astronauts are in shadow, they're lit extremely well. Now, in the movies, the sun would be called a key light, which is your main light. And this light in the shadows would be from what's called a fill light. But there's no fill light on the moon, only a key light, the sun. There seems to be a Hollywood lighting technique happening here. Now, you're not going to find any direct evidence of studio lights in any pictures from the moon. NASA's too smart for that. But even in big-budget movies, you can sometimes see the cameras and lights in reflections. Now look at this. In the reflection on the helmet, it looks like a neat row of movie lights. And look at the reflection on this photo.
What the heck is that?
That looks a lot like a studio light with the barn doors open. Now here's a photo that shows what looks like a movie prop. This rock is labeled with the letter C, but the crew forgot to remove the label when they started shooting. How about this picture of the landing module? Do those hills look like they're miles away? Or do they look like this was shot on a soundstage? And speaking of those hills, this photo was supposedly taken a few miles away from the landing module. Then how come the backgrounds are identical?
Because they use the same backdrop.
Now let's talk about stars. On Earth, even with our thick atmosphere, the sky looks like this. But on the moon, with no air, the sky is just black? Shouldn't the sky be full of stars? NASA really thought this one through. If you're going to hoax something in space, the stars are a big problem. This is because by using a star map, you can not only get the precise location a photo was taken, you can even get the precise day and time. So they had to get rid of the stars.
When you looked up at the sky, could you actually see the stars in the solar corona in spite of the glare?
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
Small problem. They use stars to help them navigate to the moon.
The astronaut navigator finds a known star in the wide-angle telescope. Using a fingertip control, he changes the attitude of the spacecraft to bring the star into line. Once he has the star in position in the telescope, he moves the optical sextant. He lines the sextant up with the star and makes a reading.
So, are there stars or not? Which is it? There's a lot of evidence stacking up that doesn't look good for NASA or the moon landing. And we're just warming up.
NASA and the government faked the moon landing was basically, it was technically impossible to do it. And they simply had to come up with some sort of alternative that they felt the public would believe.
I believe, had they wanted to, that NASA could indeed have pulled off the greatest hoax of all time, never sent anyone to the moon, and recreated it in a television studio.
Can you realize that we, that you and I, that all of us, have actually begun the exploration of another world?
The United States Geological Survey decided to build a model of one part of the lunar surface in an area accessible to present research centers.
4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Reflections of studio lights, accidental movie props, repeating backdrops. There's a lot of evidence suggesting that the moon landing wasn't filmed on the moon, but on a soundstage. 1,000 pounds of thrust, and the lunar surface is covered with dust that was described as fine powder. If that's true, why did the engine leave no mark on the surface? And shouldn't there be dust everywhere? Even the footpads are clean and shiny. So either the landing module was sitting there, or it was gently lowered down by a crane. And you'd have to lower the thing gently. Look at it. It looks like tinfoil and curtain rods held together by duct tape. More evidence that a crane was used is when the astronauts separate from the module and return to orbit for pickup. Look at this. The module separates and the astronauts gently lift back to orbit. And look how slowly it moves. Where's the rocket plume from the engine? What's allowing this to fly all the way to orbit? If you watch the footage closely, it looks like the object is wobbling a little on cables or wires. And by the way, who shot this footage? There was no camera or remote control, but somehow the scene is framed perfectly. They're zooming in and out. The camera tracks the object up into the sky, but conveniently loses the object when it gets too high. But the camera does pan around the surface. Who's working the camera? Now, speaking of cables and wires, look at this footage. Does this look natural, or does it look like he's being lifted by wires? Then there's this footage of Neil and Buzz putting up the American flag. But if they were both on the moon's surface, who's shooting the footage? And how is the flag waving if there's no atmosphere on the moon? Now, sure, we've been told that there was an aluminum tube holding up the flag, but it seems to be moving around a lot. Now, here's a picture of what an Apollo astronaut spacesuit looked like. But look at the soles of the shoes. They don't look anything like the footprints the astronauts supposedly made in the lunar dust. And what about the heat? The surface temperature on the moon during the day is over 250 degrees Fahrenheit. That's as hot as an oven. The film inside their cameras should have melted. But there are thousands of pictures that all came out perfectly fine.
Well, fine, except for the whole wrong shadows, no stars, movie props, visible lights, and stuff being hoisted by cranes.
Right, except for that. And there are plenty of photos that are flat out doctored. If you remember our episode on NASA's Mars cover-up, we proved that the photos of Mars were altered before being released to the public. This is a technique perfected during Apollo. The Apollo handheld cameras had special crosshairs on them called Rousseau marks, and these were here to help make sure the photos were printed properly from the negatives and not distorted, and to make it easier to stitch photos together for panoramas. But in some of the photos, the crosshairs aren't there, or are only in part of the picture. In other photographs, objects appear in front of the crosshairs. Now that's physically impossible, unless the objects were added after the photo was taken, by layering them on top of empty backgrounds. And there are even more problems with the photography. Here's a picture of an Apollo astronaut saluting the American flag. But look at his feet. The shadows don't even reach them. It's like he was edited in later and somebody forgot to add a shadow. Now, even if we can explain all these anomalies in the photos, there's a big reason why nobody can get to the moon. A reason, at least not yet. The reason is real and scientifically proven as fact. Radiation.
We see the ascent stage suddenly pop up without any exhaust plume whatsoever, as though it were jerked up by a cable.
Our research suggests that images of the Apollo landings are not a true and accurate record. In our view, the Apollo pictures were faked. Many of the images are replete with inconsistencies and anomalies.
There are problems with almost every aspect of the visual records, equipment, and technology used to supposedly put a man on the moon. But there's one even bigger problem we haven't dealt with yet. There's no way the astronauts could have even escaped Earth's orbit, much less gone to the moon and back. Radiation. In 1958, scientist James Van Allen discovered two enormous belts of high-energy radiation surrounding the planet. The Van Allen radiation belts are a pair of toroidal belts,
donut-shaped
belts of high-energy particles. Any object leaving the Earth's orbit to visit the moon or beyond has to pass through them, and they extend out about 37,000 miles from Earth. These two radiation belts have different compositions. The inner belt above the equator contains energetic particles that are charged up to 100 million electron volts. The outer belt is electron plasma from the sun's solar wind and has energies in the 10 million electron volt range. When it was first detected, the strength of the radiation was so powerful that scientists thought they had recorded a Soviet nuclear test. These high-energy particles can penetrate spacecraft, damage instruments, and are lethal to astronauts. But we have photos and even film of the Earth taken from much farther out. How could this be faked? Well, the astronauts never left low Earth orbit. From there, the Earth fills the entire window of the craft.
We only have one window that has a view of the Earth, and it's filled up with the TV camera. So your view now is probably better than ours is.
So to get this film of the Earth, they blocked out sections of the window. This film is an outtake. The astronauts didn't realize they were still rolling. They said the camera was pressed up against the window to get a good shot of the Earth, but that's not true. You can see someone pass in front of the window, then quickly jump out of the way. And here you see the dim work light that was used so they could operate the camera. We're not supposed to see this. We're also not supposed to see this. Someone adjusting the insert that controls the shape of the Earth. Now remember, they're in low Earth orbit, so the Earth is actually really bright and fills the whole window. How do we know? Because when they open up the iris of the lens, we can see it.
Holy sh...
Yeah, we can't pass through the Van Allen belts yet. Don't take my word for it. Take NASA's.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
I guess we're still working on solving this issue? Because I thought we...
We're also really pushing the boundaries in terms of where we're going forward with exploration. I think humans are naturally driven to do this, and this is really the beginning, I think, of human beings leaving low Earth orbit. I certainly plan on being around to see that.
I don't want to be a jerk because she seems like a nice girl, but newsflash, the moon is way outside low Earth orbit.
The plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. We only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
Once we travel beyond low Earth orbit, the crew will be exposed to larger amounts of radiation. So we have to design both the crew protection systems and our electronic systems to withstand this radiation.
But didn't we already design those protection systems for Apollo? Why don't we just use that technology?
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Wait, we destroyed the technology and we can't recreate it? So nobody wrote anything down? That seems irresponsible.
You mean irresponsible, like recording over the original moon landing tapes?
Yeah, NASA did that. There are no original high-quality moon landing tapes. They were erased and reused.
Allegedly.
The footage we see of the moon landing was taken in a very strange way. NASA took a video feed from the moon and projected it onto a screen. Then TV stations pointed their cameras at the screen. The stations wanted a direct feed, but NASA refused. That's why the moon landing footage is such a mess. Anyway, the best way to protect a fragile human body from Van Allen radiation is lead shielding. But even a thin layer of lead would have made the Saturn V rocket too heavy to get off the ground. The only protection they had was a thin sheet of aluminum. But aluminum melts at about 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. The electrons in the Van Allen belts have energies of millions of volts. Now this would equate to a temperature of about 10 million degrees. Kelvin. So how did NASA overcome this problem? They didn't. Instead, they called Hollywood.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
But right now, we need a 10 to 12-year program that has as its ultimate goal the man's domination of space. And if we don't, we're going to be in trouble.
To put people on the moon and with enough fuel to enable them to return safely home to Earth requires is still a larger and more powerful rocket, however.
A member of Congress said today that he was tired of being, say, the United States second to Russia in the space field.
And only the future will tell whether we'll manage to close that gap.
It's going to take some time, and I think we have to recognize it. They secured these large boosters, which have led to their being first in Sputnik and led to their first putting their man into space. We are, I hope, going to be able to carry out our efforts with due regard to the problem of the life of the man involved this year. But we are behind.
Kubrick's Odyssey is a short film created by Jay Weidner in 2011. Recently, it gained attention after being picked up by the Gaia streaming network. This film is the primary reference for the theory that Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing footage for NASA in the 1960s and 70s. By 1964, NASA knew that sending men to the moon was impossible. The deadly radiation belts, issues with chemical rockets, and weight and radiation shielding issues, it made it unachievable. Kubrick became involved when someone in the Pentagon saw his 1963 film, Dr. Strangelove. Impressed by the special effects, this person offered Kubrick a secret project, faking the Apollo moon landings. Kubrick was persuaded using a carrot and stick approach. If he helped fake the landings, he would have artistic freedom and financial support for his future films. That's the carrot. The stick was blackmail.
No one knows how the powers that be convinced Kubrick to direct the Apollo landings. Maybe they had compromised Kubrick in some way. The fact that his brother, Raoul Kubrick, was the head of the American Communist Party may have been one of the avenues pursued by the government to get Stanley to cooperate.
So a deal was made in 1964. Kubrick was given 3 years to complete 2001 in order to test the filmmaking technology necessary to make the moon landings appear believable. To assist him, he had access to several NASA experts and the use of a special 50mm lens made specifically for the Apollo program.
Originally was a lens manufactured, designed, developed, and manufactured by Zeiss for NASA.
So how did he do it? Without the use of CGI, Kubrick perfected a new kind of visual effect called front screen projection. Experimentation with front screen projection began in 1949, shortly after the invention of Scotchlite, a material used for screens in movie theaters. Scotchlite is cloth embedded with millions of tiny glass beads that have high reflectivity. Due to the sensitivity of Scotchlite, a minimal amount of light is required. This means that actors can stand in front of the projection without it being visible on their bodies or clothing. Front screen projection was so convincing that many people think the Dawn of Man sequences in 2001 were actually shot on location. They weren't. Almost all that part of 2001 was shot in a studio with actors on sets. If you look closely at Apollo photographs of the moon, you can see a line where the fake moon set ends and the front projection screen begins. At that line, the texture of the lunar surface changes dramatically.
Please note how everything is in focus, from the rocks and pebbles close to the camera, all the way to the crystal clear mountain behind the astronaut. There is a stark difference in ground texture between the set and what is being projected onto the screen. You can almost count the number of small rocks and the granularity of the ground that is clearly seen on the set. Once we get to the screen on the other side of my line, this granularity disappears. The little pebbles and dust just seem to disappear behind my line.
The latter part of Kubrick's Odyssey discusses the hidden messages in The Shining that Kubrick directed in 1980. Kubrick leaves clues that he faked the moon landings. The characters Jack and Danny, who are the father and son in the movie, symbolize different aspects of Kubrick's own personality. Danny, the child, represents Kubrick's inner innocence, while Jack represents the jaded and morally compromised adult that Kubrick has become. There are also specific visual clues. The Indian wall hangings on the walls of the Overlook Hotel look like rockets launching into space. The pattern on the carpet of the hotel is a hexagonal shape that represents the shape of the launch pads at Cape Canaveral. And in one scene, when Danny is playing with his toys on this carpet, he stands up and is seen wearing a sweater that says Apollo 11 on it. Next, there's a scene where Danny then walks down the hall and finds an open door to a room. The room is number 237, which was changed from room 217 in the Stephen King novel. The number 237 is significant because the average orbital distance between the Earth and the Moon is 237,000 miles. Then there's the scene where Jack's wife discovers that he's been typing the same phrase over and over. The phrase is, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. But the word all isn't A-L-L. It's actually typed out as A-11, or Apollo 11. And there are a lot of other claims made by Kubrick's Odyssey, but those are the highlights. And these claims were highly debated and very controversial. What we need is Kubrick admitting he faked the moon landing. We need to hear it from his own mouth. But he never said a word about it. Or did he?
We've been brought in here by Stanley Kubrick to more or less ensure the scientific integrity of the film, to make sure that it's very, very close in reality, but still we want to make certain that it has a base of reality.
We're in the final assembly building of the LEM. Stanley Kubrick and I have set ourselves several objectives. We hope to convey to the public the wonder and beauty and promise of the new age of exploration which is opening up before the human race.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for man.
Good evening. I'm sorry not to be able to be with you tonight.
In 2016, an interview with Stanley Kubrick was found, and according to the video, Kubrick had to sign an 88-page non-disclosure agreement that the interview would stay hidden for 15 years.
Is everything looking in order regarding our contract and the 15-year agreement, and I signed the non-disclosure? That's all for the legal stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks good to me.
All right.
A documentary filmmaker interviews Stanley Kubrick about his career as a director, and right from the start, Kubrick interrupts and explains that when he initially considered the project, he saw it as just another film. When asked which of his movies he's referring to, he reveals that he's talking about the moon landing and claims that it was all fake.
The challenge of making this film, and I went into it like it was a regular film, like another production of mine. Not thinking too much about the long-term effects, what it would mean to society if it was ever discovered.
Mm-hmm. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. You're referring to something.
The fake moon landing.
He says that he was approached by NASA and that they appealed to his sense of duty and patriotism. But Kubrick admitted that the project was about America's public image and upstaging Russia.
To fulfill this dream that America has had as a country since the Kennedy years.
Okay, so you're saying the motivation was PR?
PR, absolutely. Plain and simple, PR.
Then he goes on to confirm that the conspiracy is actually the truth.
Faking the exploration of space because there was just no way we could get there.
NASA then set up a meeting with Kubrick and President Richard Nixon. Kubrick met with Nixon in the Oval Office and details what Nixon asked him to do: film a fake moon landing.
I am convinced, and the gentlemen at NASA are also convinced, that you can help us make people believe that we have been to the moon.
This interview was a bombshell. This was the evidence the world had been waiting for. This was evidence that every allegation made in the documentary Kubrick's Odyssey was true.
Yep.
Millions of people saw this interview and finally felt justified in their suspicion that the moon landing never happened.
Yep.
One small problem.
No.
That wasn't Stanley Kubrick.
No.
The Stanley Kubrick moon landing confession set the conspiracy side of the internet on fire, but it was a hoax. This is either a filmmaker and an actor, or more likely, two guys goofing around. In the full-length version of the interview, an agitated producer constantly badgers the actor whose real name is Tom.
A launch pad accident in 67, which killed...
Tom, you're going to tell me a story. So Nixon sat me down in the Oval Office, and he says to me, you know, that boy just out on the... This is how I want you... We're never going to kneel. We're going to kneel. Yeah.
The plan. He didn't get... Yeah.
So he says to me, you don't say he said anything. You say what he says, okay? That's all, Tom, I'm just giving you a direction.
You want me...
Everything about, you know, I walked in and he said...
say it as him?
You don't have to imitate him, but you have to say, he says, Stanley was working on this moon program. You don't...
Come on, get with it, Tom.
Do your shtick. Do a shtick. Get in the fact that you're writing this, Tom, and not everything's got to be grabbed. It can be funny in a very slow way. So you meet with Nixon, and what happened? Have a drink. And action.
What they believed was, if we could...
Nixon sat down. Color, tell me a story, Tom.
So Stanley Kubrick had nothing to do with that interview. Not just that, he had nothing to do with the moon landing. In the documentary Kubrick's Odyssey, everything can be explained. All the photo evidence presented is from extremely low-resolution photos, probably grabbed from the web. Now, unfortunately for the documentary, but lucky for us, high-resolution photos can be found easily. So when looking at a low-resolution photo of the lunar landscape, you can maybe see a separation between the foreground and the supposed backdrop. But in the high-res photos, the line isn't there. All the other claims in the documentary that refer to photos can be explained simply by looking at the originals. As far as the clues left in The Shining, those are nothing but coincidences and stretches of the imagination. The rockets in the tapestry, I don't really see it. The hexagonal rug? Well, the launch pad at Cape Canaveral is not a hexagon. It was roughly 10 sides, but it's not very symmetrical. Room 237 is just room 237. The moon isn't 237,000 miles away from the Earth. It's closer to 239,000, but varies slightly. Danny is indeed wearing an Apollo 11 sweater. But Stanley Kubrick was a space nut. He loved the Apollo program, and he loved sci-fi. And Stanley Kubrick's brother Paul, who was the leader of the Communist Party, well, that's not true at all. Kubrick didn't have a brother. So that documentary is debunked.
Well, maybe debunked, maybe not.
No, it's debunked. It is.
Yeah, I agree to disagree. Yeah, but there's still a lot of stuff in those pictures that looks really fishy.
Well, that's true. The big one is that the shadows should be parallel. Since the shadows are not parallel, there must be other light sources. Except shadows aren't parallel. The direction of shadows depends on the perspective of the viewer. Now here's an example on Earth. These are two pictures of the same woman, taken at different angles. In the first photo, taken from the side, the shadows are parallel. But when we put our back to the sun, the shadows aren't even close to parallel. In perspective drawing and design, parallel lines converge in what's called a vanishing point. This is typically the horizon line where objects vanish beyond our field of view. Plus, the astronauts used very wide lenses to capture as much terrain as possible. So images are going to be slightly distorted, like a carnival mirror. But even with a flatter lens, or the human eye, shadows are not parallel. Also, multiple light sources would cast multiple shadows. But the objects on the moon cast only one shadow.
Yeah, but everything in the shadow is supposed to be black because there's no light getting there.
Sure there is.
No, there isn't.
There is.
Agree to disagree.
The ambient light, or the fill light, is the moon itself. The soil on the surface of the moon is full of tiny beads of glass, and metal like aluminum and titanium. These are all highly reflective materials. So the moon's soil actually acts like trillions of tiny mirrors, bouncing the light back and filling in the shadows.
Yeah.
Well, ever go skiing on a sunny day?
Of course I have. I was an instructor in college.
You were... I don't want to get into that now. Anyway, you can get a pretty bad sunburn skiing. Not from the sun overhead, but by the sun reflecting off the snow. You could actually burn your cornea with reflected ultraviolet sunlight. It's called snow blindness. So shadows and multiple light sources, that's all debunked. Now, the same background theory might be my favorite, because it really defies explanation. Until we look more closely. The backgrounds do not line up perfectly. They're slightly off because the photos were taken pretty far apart. The hills in the distance look the same because they're the same. Those hills are miles away. But since there's no atmosphere on the moon... Well, since there's no water vapor on the moon... Okay, there's an atmosphere on the moon, but it's extremely thin compared to the Earth. It's called an exosphere, and it's made up of very small amounts of hydrogen, helium, and a few trace gases. And because there's no atmosphere, there's no haze. We evolved on Earth with a thick atmosphere. And one of the ways we determine distant objects is by how hazy they are. In other words, how much of the atmosphere are we looking through? Now, on the moon, without haze, objects both near and far will feel close. It's an optical illusion.
Yeah, but where are the stars?
Right. The stars are there, you just can't see them.
A likely story.
Well, in order to take pictures of the moon, the camera's iris had to be almost completely closed and shutter speed turned way up. This is to let in as little light as possible. Otherwise, the brightness of the moon would wash everything out. Look how bright a full moon is. On a clear night, a full moon lights up everything, and it's 250,000 miles away. The astronauts are standing on that. It's bright. Even on Earth, if you're standing under a big spotlight at night, you're not going to see stars. The iris of your eye acts like the iris of a camera. The faint light of the stars just doesn't register. Watch a baseball game played under the lights. You don't see stars. Now, a lot of moon hoax evidence is cherry-picked, like the lack of a blast crater under the lunar module. There's no crater because the engine was turned off about 10 feet from the surface. The LEM just dropped the rest of the way. And without any wind to disturb, there's just not going to be a lot of dust flying around. And where Apollo 11 touched down, the ground was hard soil. But other Apollo landings like Apollo 12 were pretty dusty. The lack of wind is also why the American flag doesn't move. Well, the aluminum rods are pretty springy, so the flag moves for quite a while after it's touched. But when it settles down, it doesn't move an inch. Oh, the camera that recorded the lunar module separating? That was operated remotely. The footprints don't match because the astronauts put on boot covers that have a different tread. The temperatures are hot on the moon, but without an atmosphere to conduct heat, there's no convection. As long as things are colored bright white, they reflect most of the sun's energy pretty well. Heat wasn't an issue, not for the astronauts and not for the camera film. Now, there are many more examples, but I think you get the idea. Every single one of those pieces of evidence can be explained. But hold on a second.
Go on.
2 questions. Did NASA put men on the moon? Probably. Is NASA covering something up on the moon? Definitely.
My name is Carl Wolf, and I was a precision electronics photographic repairman with a top secret crypto clearance. In mid-1965, I was loaned to the Lunar Orbiter Project at NASA on Langley Field. I was taken into the laboratory where the equipment was malfunctioning. I couldn't repair it in the dark. I asked to have it removed. Airman second class was in the dark room at that time. I was also an airman second class. About 30 minutes into the process, he said to me, by the way, we discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And then he proceeded to put photographs down in front of me, and clearly in these photographs were structures, mushroom-shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and towers. And at that point I was very concerned because I knew we were working in compartmentalized security. He had breached security, and I was actually frightened at that moment. And I did not question him any further. And a few moments later, someone did come into the room. I worked there for 3 more days, and I remember going home and naively thinking, I can't wait to hear about this on the evening news. And here it is, more than 30 years later, and I hope we hear about it tonight. And I will testify under oath before Congress that what I'm saying is the truth.
I think the reason we haven't returned to the moon for 50 years is not because of a lack of interest or funding or the Van Allen radiation belts. I think we haven't gone back to the moon because of what was found up there. But that requires its own episode, and if you want to see it, let me know. Whatever is up there has been up there for a long, long time. And I think we can prove it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My name is AJ, that's Echofish. This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do us a favor, subscribe, like, comment, share, the buttons, all that stuff. It really does help the channel. And like most topics we cover here, today's was recommended by you. So if there's a story you'd like to see or learn more about, go to thewhyfiles.com/tips. And if you'd like to join a great community full of thousands of like-minded people who are weird like us, check out the Y-Files Discord. It's free to join and a lot of fun. And special thanks to our patrons who make this channel possible. We could not do this without your support. And if you'd like to support the channel and keep the Y-Files going, become a member on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you get all kinds of fun perks, and you get to see the videos early without commercials. Or buy something from the Y-Files store.
Get yourself a Hecklefish t-shirt, or a Hecklefish coffee mug, or one of these Hecklefish talking stuffed animal fish-style animals.
That's going to do it. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated.
has personally gifted each and every one of you with 1 year free of electric vehicle rental.
Wait, did I pay for that or did you guys pay for that?
You did, Tom. You get a rental. You get a rental. I get a rental.
A black hole is a mirror. And the way it's a mirror is if light, a photon, bounces off your face towards the black hole, it goes straight to the black hole, just falls in, you never see it again.
Mm-hmm.
But if it just misses the black hole, swing around the back and come back to you.
Yeah.
And you see yourself and that went around the back of the black hole. But not only can that happen, black hole, the photon can swing around twice. copies.
The following is a conversation with Andrew Strominger, theoretical physicist at Harvard, whose research seeks to shed light on the unification of fundamental laws of nature, the origin of the universe, and the quantum structure of black holes and event horizons. This is the Lex Friedman Podcast. To support it, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, dear friends, here's Andrew Strominger, who are part of the Harvard Black Hole Initiative, which has theoretical physicists, experimentalists, and even philosophers. So let me ask the big question. What is a black hole from a theoretical, from an experimental, maybe even from a philosophical perspective?
So a black hole is defined theoretically as a region of space-time in which light can never escape, therefore it's black. Now, that's just the starting point. Many weird things follow from that basic definition, but that is the basic definition.
What is light? They can't escape from a black hole.
Well, light is, the stuff that comes out of the sun, the stuff that goes into your eyes. Light is one of the stuff that disappears when the lights go off. The stuff that appears when the lights come on.
Yeah.
Of course, I could give you a mathematical definition, but or physical mathematical definition, but I think it's something that we all understand very intuitively. What is light? Black holes, on the other hand, we don't understand intuitively. They're very weird. And what to is, why doesn't light get out? Or how is it that there can be a region of space-time from which light can't escape? It definitely happens. We've seen those regions. We have spectacular pictures, especially in the last several years, of those regions. They're there. They're up in the sky, thousands or millions of them. Yet know how many. But the proper explanation of a light doesn't escape from coal is still a matter of some debate. And an explanation, which perhaps Einstein might have given, is that light carries energy. You know it carries energy because, we have photocells and we can take the light from the sun and collect it, turn it into electricity. So there's energy in light. And anything that carries energy is subject to a gravitational pull. Gravity will pull at anything with energy. Now, it turns out that the gravitational pull exerted by an object is proportional to its mass. And so if you get enough mass in small enough region, you can prevent light from escaping. And let me flesh that out a little more. If you're Earth and you're on a rocket ship leaving the Earth, and if we ignore the friction from the air, rocket accelerates up to 11 kilometers per second. That's escape velocity. And it can, if there were no friction, it could just continue forever to the next galaxy. On the moon, which has less mass, it's only 7 kilometers. So, but going in the other direction, if you have enough mass in one place, the escape velocity can become the speed of light. If you shine light straight up away from the Earth, it doesn't have too much trouble. It's going way above the escape velocity. And, but if you have enough mass there even light can't escape the escape velocity. And according to Einstein's theory of relativity, there is an absolute speed limit in the universe, the speed of light, and nothing makes sense, nothing could be self-consistent if there were objects that could exceed speed. And so in these very, very massive regions of space-time, even light cannot escape.
And the interesting thing is Einstein himself didn't think that these objects we call the black holes could exist. But let me actually linger on this.
Yeah, that's incredibly interesting. Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting things here. First, with the speed limit. How wild is it to you, if you put yourself in the mind in the time of Einstein before him, to come up with a speed limit of that there is a speed limit, and that speed limit is the speed of light? How difficult of an idea is that? Is it, you said from a mathematical physics perspective, everything just kind of falls into place, but he wasn't, perhaps maybe initially had the luxury to think mathematically. He had to come up with it intuitively, yes? So how counterintuitive is this notion to you?
Well,
is it still crazy?
No. So it's a very funny thing in physics. The best discoveries seem completely obvious in retrospect.
Yeah.
Even my own discoveries, which of course are far lesser than Einstein's, but many of my papers, many of my collaborators get all confused. We'll try to understand something. We'll say, we've got to solve this problem. We'll get all confused. Finally, we'll solve it. We'll get it all together. And everything will fall into place. We'll explain it. And then we'll look back at our discussions for the precedings of months and literally be unable to reconstruct confused we were.
Yeah.
And how we could ever have thought of it. Right. And so not only can I not fathom how confused I was, or when he started thinking about the issues, I can't even reconstruct my own confusion from 2 weeks ago. So the really beautiful ideas of physics have this very hard to get yourself back into the mindset. Of course, Einstein was confused about many, many things. Doesn't matter if you're a physicist. It's not how many things you got wrong. It's not the ratio of how many you got wrong, how many you got right. It's the number that you got right. So Einstein didn't believe black holes existed. He predicted them. And I went and I read that paper, which he wrote. Einstein wrote down his field equations in 1915, and Schwarzschild them and discovered the black hole solution 3 or 4 months later, in very early 1916. And 5 years later, Einstein wrote a paper. So with 25 years to think about what this solution means, wrote a paper in which he said that black holes exist. And I'm like, well, if one of my students in my general relativity course wrote this, I wouldn't pass them.
You get a C minus. Oh, you wouldn't pass them. Okay. All right.
Get a C minus. Okay. Same thing with gravity waves. He didn't believe.
Oh, he didn't believe in gravitational waves either?
He went back and forth, but he wrote a paper in, I think, 34, saying that gravity waves didn't exist because people were very confused about what a coordinate transformation is. And in fact, this confusion about what a coordinate transformation has persisted, and we actually think we were on the edge of solving it years later.
Well,
100 years later.
Well, what is coordinate transformation as it was 100 years ago to today?
Let's imagine I want to draw a map with pictures of all the states and the mountains, and then I want to draw the weather forecast, what the temperatures are going to be all over the... And I do that one set of weather stations, number the weather stations, and you have some other set of stations, and you, the same thing. So the coordinates are the locations of the weather stations.
Yeah.
They're how we describe where the things are. At the end of the day, draw the same coordinate invariance. If we're telling somebody, we're going to tell somebody in a real physical operation, we want you to stay as dry as possible on your drive from here to California, we should give them exactly the same route. Which weather stations we use or how we, It's a very trivial, it's the labeling of points is an artifact and not in the real physics.
Sure.
So it turns out that that's true, but not quite. There's some subtleties to it.
The statement that you should always have the same, give it the same kind of trajectory, the same kind of instructions by the stations.
Yeah, there's some very delicate subtleties to that, which tend to be noticed in the 50s. It's mostly true, but when you have a space-time with edges, tricky how you label the edges.
In space-time in terms of space or in terms of time, in terms of everything, just space?
Either one, space or time. That gets very tricky. And Einstein didn't have it right, and in fact he had an earlier version of general relativity, 1914, which he was very excited about, which was wrong. It wasn't fully coordinate invariant, it was only partially coordinate invariant. It was wrong. It was the wrong answer for bending light to the sun, factor of 2. There was an expedition sent out to measure it during World War I, captured before they could measure it. And that gave Einstein 4 more years to clean his act up, by which time he'd gotten it right. So it's a very tricky business, but once it's all laid out, it seems it's clear.
Then why do you think Einstein didn't believe his own equations and didn't think that black holes are real? Well, why was that such a difficult idea for him?
Well, something very interesting happens in Schwarzschild solution of the Einstein equation. His reasoning was ultimately wrong, but let me explain to you center of the black hole, behind the horizon, in a region that nobody can see and live to tell about it. At the center of the black hole, there's a singularity, and if you pass the horizon, you go into the singularity, you get crushed, and that's the end of everything. Now, the word singularity means that it just means that Einstein's equations break down. They become infinite. You write them down, you put them on the computer. When the computer hits that singularity, it crashes. Everything becomes infinite. There's 2. So the equations are just no good there. Now, that's actually a bad thing, good thing. And let me explain why. So it's an odd thing that Maxwell's theory, Newton's theory,